Hiya Bakers, Catherine here. We're going to talk a little bit about managing a mix in the KitchenAid. Many of you aspire to bake 4 loaves, and some of you have a 6-quart KitchenAid or 7 or maybe even 8. But a 4-loaf batch is too much for our artisan mixers. And actually, it can even be too much for the 6-quart mixer. This mixer, 6 quarts, is 575 watts. For bread mixing, you really benefit by more wattage. 600 watts and higher is a good amount. So 4 loaves in this mixer is too many, just too much. So how are we going to manage this? We don't want to burn out our KitchenAids. They are good machines. We want to keep them in our arsenal. So what are we going to do? We're going to maximize our preparation, and we're going to minimize the amount of ingredients that we put into the bowl at any one time. So if you could bear with me here, I'm going to show you how I've got myself set up for this mix. First, I have my auto lease here. This is an auto lease for a 4-loaf batch, so the entire amount is here. I have our oatmeal, and this is also the full 4-loaf batch of oatmeal. I have our pre-ferment. I divided this up, so it's the full weight. If I put these together, it's the full weight, but I divided it up into these 2 containers. I also measured out my salt into 2 containers and my yeast into 2 containers. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with, we're going to mix essentially 2 loaves at a time, and then I have a big container. When I finish mixing the halves, I'm going to put that in here, and then I'm going to mix another half. It begins to make a lot more sense once I get going. So here we go. I'm going to need to put, I wish I had one of those KitchenAids with the lift top. It's so much easier to get into. I'm going to take my pre-ferment. This is a levain. This is for the classic formula. I'm going to scrape out my levain, put that on the bottom. We like to put the wet ingredients in at the bottom. It makes it so much easier to mix everything. Okay. So this goes in, just like so. Try to get as much of it as you can. Then we're going to take 1/2 of the auto lease. Now, I'm not taking the time to weigh this. You certainly can weigh the whole thing, and then you'll know for sure that you've got half and half. In my situation, I'm confident or feeling really confident. I'm going to go ahead, divide this in half, reserve this 1/2 for the second batch, second mix. Put it to the side, take this half, chunk it up into the bowl. So I'm following the instructions very closely to our step-by-step. But in this situation, I'm not going to mix the entire amount. Your total mix time is going to be a little bit longer, but you're going to save the motor of your KitchenAid by breaking this up. I should have started with, this is simply one way to do this. You can also, maybe I'll do another video for that, but you could also do more hand mixing to save the engine on your KitchenAid and use the KitchenAid only for the first round of kneading. Then put all of that into a big bowl and incorporate the oatmeal by hand. So this is the equivalent of 2 loaves worth, right? And then we're going to get going here. Attach our Okay, so away we go. Only 2 loaves are inside the bowl. It takes about 5-6 minutes for the first round of kneading. That's our goal is the same as it is when you follow our step-by-step. We're looking for this to create an even consistency throughout. No chunks of the autolyse, no loose pockets of the pre-ferment. In this case, it's the levain, but it's one cohesive amount. Once I have a cohesive amount, add your yeast, and then you're going to add your salt. So I'm going to let this mix on low speed. Okay, on my KitchenAid, it's stir. All right. So we'll come back to you in just a little bit when the consistency is our target. All right, we have been mixing now for about 3 minutes. I have some water nearby to wet my fingers. I'm going to stop this. I also moved to speed 2 on my KitchenAid. It's not feeling too warm. It's feeling pretty good. I am checking my dough consistency, and it feels good. Even no chunks of the autolyse and no pre-ferment. All right, so it's actually looking really beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead at this point and add our yeast. All right, add the yeast. And I'm going to share with you that I did move on my KitchenAid to speed 2. I don't actually have a speed, it's stir is speed 1. And I moved to speed 2 just to move things along. And it seems to be handled just fine. But if your machine starts to get warm, always stop it and give it at least a 2-minute break before resuming. That way you're preserving your motor. With the yeast, I want to get that worked in. Once that yeast is worked in, we're going to add our salt. It's a pretty nice dough today. I must like the cooler weather. Okay, now I'm adding my salt. I'm doing that slowly. So I wanted to respond to a number of emails that I have received about the KitchenAid. They do get warm, so do take those breaks when you need. Some of you are commenting about this climbing the hook, which your dough does. Today, mine is not climbing the hook. One of the reasons is that I've reduced the amount of dough that is inside the bowl. So I could mix 3 loaves and 4 loaves in this mixer, but instead of crowding the dough hook in the bowl, by backing off a little bit, you don't have to stop and pull it away from the hook. I think the perfect optimization for the 6-quart, which is what I have, is to mix 3 loaves. So all of that prep that I did, really, if I had for a 6-loaf batch, I would then use half of the oatmeal, half of the autolyse. I would measure the poolish, the pre-ferment for 3 loaves each. Because I would have it for 6, I would divide that in half. Same thing with the salt and the yeast. Okay, let's do a quick window pane test, see where we're at. Because our dough is doing great, and I don't feel any salt in here. Yeah, it's pretty good. Maybe a little gritty. And it's developing, which is great, but it's not that strong. So we need time. It's all right. Get in here and just give it a feel, see how we're doing. And then we're going to continue mixing. Feel the top, and now we're starting to get a little warm, but not too warm. So away she goes. Remember what I said, oh, Catherine, you're going to lift the bowl up. That never happens at your house, does it? When you work with a slightly smaller amount of dough in the bowl, you also don't experience as much rocking. Some of you may have your machines rocking. You have to stand by so they don't rock off the table or the counter. One of my tricks for understanding how warm it's getting is just to drape my hand over the back of the machine. And as you feel that heat, you know, oh, you probably could use a break. But other than that, we're just going. It looks like we're about 8 minutes into this mix. I'll stop and do a window pane test at 10. See where we're at. All right, let's stop this. It's been about 10 minutes of our mix time, and I wanted to just see how we're doing. It seems to be progressing nicely, especially given the smaller quantity. So it might move along a little bit faster than when you've got a full bowl. We need to do this window pane. Dough is feeling elastic. It's feeling really good. Take your time doing the window pane. It allows the machine to cool down a little bit. And look at this. This window pane is looking really pretty good. And see, you can tease that out. We get a lot of strength. And then it starts to collapse on us. So, in my mind, this needs a little bit more time. But it does feel good. It's got some real strength. It can tease it apart. And this is what we want to see. It's good. I'm going to give it 2 more minutes of a mix. And then we're going to add the oatmeal. All right, that was another couple minutes. We are in total 13 minutes into this mix, and we're going to do another window pane test. Wet my fingers, as I tend to do. We're going to start teasing this apart. Again, there's a buckiness to this dough. I'm able to pull and stretch this out, and we really are getting to this nice development. So it's still a little tight. So I'm getting some holes here, but I can't stretch this piece here any further. It doesn't want to go. I think it needs a little bit more time. I did not guess right, which is one of the reasons why we don't have a fixed amount of time on the formula. So I'm going to move this about a little bit. That test gives the machine a minute to cool down. This time we'll remember to lift up that bowl. And here we go. Let's see what happens after another 2 minutes, maybe 3. Okay, we're going to give this dough another check. We're looking for that window pane. We've been mixing for 17 minutes. And we're going to go ahead and check this again. Each time it's gotten better. So if ever in doubt, keep mixing. My machine is now starting to get warm. This machine needs a break. There are a couple of ways to give it a break. You could just stop, grab yourself a cup of coffee. Ooh, look at this. This is looking really good. So this is a really nice window pane. You can see this translucency. It is not prone to baking. I can get really quite a bit of square out of this at 17.5 minutes. And I'm going to call this done. But my machine, and there's my first hole. If you get a slight hole after you've been able to clear a nice strong window pane like you see here, you can be done. Okay, you're done. So, but my machine is warm. So I can grab a cup of coffee. I can give it a minute. She's going to go a second round. I can divide up my oatmeal, which I am not going to be super precise on, but I have my oatmeal laid out on a sheet tray. So I'm just going to scoop half of it one way, half of it another way. When it comes time for the bulk, which is the next step, right after the mix, we go into the bulk phase. I'm going to incorporate both components into this bin, and when I incorporate them, I'm going to move things about a little bit just to make sure that it's fully even Steven. That's why I didn't take the time to weigh it out. You might prefer to weigh it out at your house. That works great. I would encourage those of you who are working with a 6-quart KitchenAid to consider, this is a great way to optimize and get 6 loaves instead of 4. Do the batch as 6 and use your KitchenAid to mix 3. If you have got an artisan mixer, those smaller 4 or 5 quart, just stick with a 4-loaf batch, divide it up in a way that you can do 2 at a time in the mix. All right, let's get this oatmeal incorporated. Remember, the window pane has been passed. Our goal here is just getting that oatmeal evenly distributed through the dough. Coming right along. All right, this looks really good to me. I can also finish anything off inside the mixer. Actually, it did look good to me, but when I got in here, and let's see if we can get this on the camera. When I got in here, I have a section that is more dough. See this? Okay. And I have a section here that is more oatmeal. Can you see that? Very different. That's not done. That's not evenly distributed. I could do it by hand, or I can just keep mixing for a little bit longer to get more of that oatmeal incorporated. All right? I didn't know I was going to do that, so I didn't wet my hands in advance. There we go. No more than speed 2. There you go. There we go. Now I think we're done. Now this is completed. I'm going to transfer this into this bulk. This entire mix looks like it took me 22 minutes. Now I have to go and repeat. Do this process again. with the remaining ingredients. All in, this mix will be 45, maybe 50 minutes instead of a total of the 25 that we just accomplished. So it takes a little bit more time, but you will get 4 loaves out of it. And that's a far less amount of difference in time than trying to start an entire batch from scratch, right? So I think it's a good return on time and investment to go ahead and divide things up and just manage your mixer. Now she's cooling a little bit. Some people have written to me that they use a hairdryer on a cool setting over the top of the back of their KitchenAid. I have not tried this, but it sounds like it has some promise. One of our volunteers, in fact, she's a volunteer coordinator for us, Kimbra Ong, her machine got pretty warm the other day, and she strapped on a little ice pack on the back. It was adorable. Again, not one that I have tried, but I thought that was great and showed creativity and ingenuity. All right. Oh, sorry for the noise of the bang. All right, same process. We are now queuing in the second round. I'm going to chunk this up just like we did the one before. Once all these ingredients are mixed to that consistency, still has to pass the window pane test, all that, we'll put them in the bulk. Now your bulk phase might be a little shorter. You're looking for 1.5 to 2 times in size. Well, half of your ingredients are already off to the races, right? Still incorporate the whole thing. But when we incorporate, you're going to see that I'm going to blend the two together. So, could go a little faster, but not necessarily. All right, put this on. I don't expect you to stay with me for the next 22 minutes, 23 minutes. I will not do the window pane test again, so you won't be missing out on anything. But I will rejoin you once we've got this mixed up. All right, fair enough. Again, checking for warmth. This is warm. She's not overheated. She's not smoking. But this next round could put her over the edge just a little bit, right? So now that she's primed and warm, you want to be ever more vigilant and not let her overheat. The thicker mix, I have told you that I was mixing on speed 2, and I did move her to speed 2. But right this very second, when it's the stiffest part, I'm back to speed 1, or on mine, stir. All right. Again, I'm just trying to protect this machine from burning out. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, bakers, we're going to check in on this mix. This is the second half of the mix. We're about 35 minutes into the dividing the KitchenAid use into 2 rounds. And the machine is feeling warm. I wanted to pause, not only to give the machine time to take a break. I've added my yeast, I've added my salt. We're working on getting to our window pane. I have not even pulled that, but I will here in a second. But I really like these little kitchen timers. You probably have something similar. And I just am setting this. I'm encouraging you to use a timer to really keep yourself honest on what a 2-minute break for your KitchenAid feels like. Sometimes we think, yes, I gave it a break, but it might have only been 30 seconds, and 2 minutes is not a scientific amount. I'm just recommending that as a starting point, and I know that it won't have negative consequences to your overall mix, okay? So that timer is going. We're at 1 minute 32, 1 minute 30. I'm checking here because I added my salt. Another change from the first round is I told you before that I have moved up to speed 2, and now I'm staying at that stir, that speed 1. That means that it's going to take a little longer. And no, we are not at our window pane yet. I can't really get that same quality of pull, and I wouldn't expect it because this mix is really only, I'm trying not to throw so many numbers at you, but we're really only 10 minutes into this. And remember, the first round took about 25. So I'm paused to do 2 things. One, let you know that I am pausing periodically. Keep yourself honest in managing your KitchenAid by using some kind of timer to really make it an official break for your machine. Keep your speed low. And when my timer goes off here in just a couple more seconds, I'm going to resume my mix. And then use your powers of touch to understand how your KitchenAid is doing on its heat management. So we're 11, 10. You want to count down with me? And we're going to start her up. And away we go. Yep. Okay, bakers, we're back. And I'm going to use this as a real teachable moment for you and for me. My KitchenAid is starting to have a little knocking sound. Can you hear it? Of course it goes away, just like taking your cat to the vet and they're magically healed. There it is. Also, this machine has been going off and on now for 42 minutes. She feels warm. She's not smoking. Maybe she's okay. But if you're nervous, don't push it here on this final step. Here's what we can do. So let's see. I think we're probably at our window pane. I believe we are. So let's do that check first. You can pause again another 2 minutes. Let's set that timer. But I also brought a bowl out because if you think your machine is done, you might want to just finish by hand. Hopefully you're at a window pane stage, so you don't need to do any slap and folds. And look, we really are. You can see, yeah, there's some fragility here on the edge, but in the middle, it's got some good. So, what can we do? Well, if I am questioning if the machine can keep on going, one of the things I can do while I'm waiting for those 2 minutes is I can put a little muscle into it, and I can keep kneading by doing some slap and folds right on my kitchen counter. So I can just keep this dough going while the machine is cooling down. Okay? So we let it cool down. There is a lot of really great quality here in this dough. When I feel that we've passed the window pane test and I've given the machine a break, I can throw it back into the machine, add my residual oatmeal, Mix that in. We know that's only going to take a couple minutes. Also, if I just want to be done and add this tactile component, I can take another bowl, put this in, put the oatmeal on, and mix it in by hand. Get that all incorporated, and then finish it off by putting it in with the bulk. So this is 2 minutes. I know you didn't hear the beeper go off. That's because I set it for 3 minutes. And it's and the machine is definitely cooling down. So I think I'm going to finish right in the mix, because incorporating the oatmeal is a bit of a pain. So I'm going to go ahead, do this. Let's see how we're doing. We were really close before, so I was thinking I'd just call it. This is a really good dough. Okay, there's our 3 minutes now for the machine. It feels good. Remember, you're being gentle with it as you're pulling it with your hands. Feels good. It actually does feel a little tight, so I could slap and fold, knead, and or I could go a little longer. It would make sense for this to take a little bit longer, because now I'm mixing on speed 1 throughout versus that 2. So you go to your satisfaction level. This is a judgment call. I'll give it a minute, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the oatmeal. Our total mix time right now for the 2 so far is 47 minutes. Seems to me like we're going to get to 50 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add this oatmeal. Get this into the... If you do burn out your engine and your machine is, especially if your machine is an older machine, but I believe this holds true for the newer machines. There is, up here in my neck of the woods, there is Action Appliances, which is a terrific place to take any of our injured equipment for repair. You do not have to buy a new machine. If you're in the market for a new machine, you happen to have all the KitchenAid attachments, and you really want a KitchenAid, the investment in a machine like a 7-quart or an 8-quart, and it is an investment. I am not going to deceive you. It's an investment. But those machines have 700 watts, 675, 750 watts, and they're real workhorses. And I think they'd be great. And if you don't have a lot of attachments and you want to try a different kind of machine, the Ankerstrom also does a great job with our bread loaves. Let's get this oatmeal worked in. It's also expensive, the Ankerstrom, but you also get a discount, an unbelievable discount as a volunteer baker. You can learn more about that on our website. Again, keep your arm connected, especially as this machine has been working so hard. You can always bring a bowl and your hands into the equation and finish it off. We still have a little bit more work to get the oatmeal incorporated. I'm balancing that against the need to give her another break. Always err on the side of the break. And sometimes that's a do as I say, not as I do moment. And I know how tempting it is to just keep on going, but it's not a race. Bread is slow. But you can hear it knocking again, which I think is interesting and a sign. So I think our oatmeal is in. We're 51 minutes in. Gonna go ahead and take out my hook, my dough hook. I'm gonna take my breader together bowl scraper, because we really are breader together. So exciting what we're accomplishing this fall. I'm going to add this dough right in, scrape as much out as I can. Set this aside, maybe use my wet hands again. And now we want to incorporate this. Someone is a fold, get it worked in. Once I've got these incorporated, you could also do this on your bench, which I think is going to be a little bit easier, or in a different bowl. You can pinch it in together, but you've got all that lovely gluten, so you don't really want to break that up too much. I just want to get it worked together, so as if it had been one the entire time. All right, that is good. It's good dough. Looks beautiful. Cover and bulk, which is the next step, like you normally would. It might go a little faster, but the weather's cooler and a lot of things, so just watch it. You want it to be 1.5 to 2 times in size before you move on to the pre-shape step. Ha! That'll be a fun tongue twister later. All right, have a great day. Good luck. Keep me posted.